of the human figure, showing us different muscles on the body of this human figure. But the narrative portion of this very slide talks about early healers, okay, uh, who were practicing medicine that they dependent on superstition and magic. And the superstition and magic was followed by observations of injuries, wound healing, and dead bodies. And over time, this evolved into experimentation and creation of new terminology for anatomy and physiology. And finally, study of corpses and cadaver dissection brought new knowledge of the human body. So for example, if they were thinking that, oh, the heart is in the abdomen, so when they dissected the cadaver or corpses, they found out, oh, the heart is not in the abdomen, it's actually in the chest region, okay? So that's what they meant by study of corpses and cadaver dissection brought new knowledge of the human body, so they cannot tell which area this structure is located in the human body. Next is a slide showing us figure 1.2 titled Anatomy and Physiology. On this very slide, they have two diagrams. One is titled A, the other one is titled B. The one titled A is showing us a hand grabbing on to a rod. Okay. Uh, the one titled B is showing us the mouth open. Okay. And on this very slide, the narrative portions have the topic anatomy and physiology. Anatomy, we should know, is a study of the structure slash morphology of the human body and its parts. And this term is derived from Greek for a cutting up. Now, one word that stands out from the information used to define anatomy is the term structure. Anatomy is similar to saying structure. Okay. Now, if you look at physiology, physiology is defined as a study of the functions of the human body and its parts. And physiology is also derived from Greek, but for relationship to nature. Now, if you look at the words used to define physiology, one word stands out there. That word is called functions. So I can say anatomy and physiology is similar to saying structure and functions, because physiology is synonymous with function, so is anatomy synonymous with structure. So structure and function is like saying anatomy and physiology. And the structure of organs and parts of the human body determines function. So what that means is that the way a structure in our body appears tells us how that structure functions, class. For example, you look at the diagram A. It's showing us a hand grabbing on a rod. If you have to open your hand, you're gonna see your hand has a region that we call the palm, and then it has extensions or digits, extensions that we call fingers or digits. Okay, everyone see that? So so the hand, as you can see, it has a broad part called palm, and then it has extensions called fingers. Okay. Now, the way the hand is structured tells us how it functions. So the fingers that project out from the part of the hand that we call the palm tells us that it's meant for grabbing. If your fingers are in there and you try to grab onto the rod is going to fall off your hand. So the way the hand is structured, or the way the hand the structure or the structuring of a hand tells us how the hand tend to do what? Function. Everyone see that? So the way an organ appears determines the function of that very organ. So the hand, the way it appears, tells us how the hand functions. Same applies to the mouth as shown in diagram B. The mouth has a roof, it has a floor that has a tongue in it, it has walls on both sides. Okay. Now, if you approach the mouth in the front and open the mouth, the roof is separated from the floor and there's a space between that area. That's the area where you can see on the diagram showing us the arrow pointing into the mouth. The food goes in there. Once the food goes into the mouth and you close the mouth, you have teeth that we use to tear up the food. And then there's saliva from salivary glands in the walls of the mouth that mix up with the food. And then the tongue pushes the food upward towards the roof and back towards the throat. So this tells us that the way the mouth is structured tells us how the mouth functions. So anatomy and physiology work hand in hand, class. The way structure, the way the anatomy is structured tells us how it functions. See, tells us about the physiology, how it functions. So structure and function work hand in hand. Any question?
Sir. No.
All right. Now, in the hand which you diagram which we have on the screen there, if you have to go beneath that hand and try to find out the component that makes up the hand, you're gonna find out that within us, things are arranged are organized at different levels. So this slide is gonna take us to a slide titled Levels of Organization. Now, what this levels of organization is telling us is that all materials, living or non-living, are composed of chemicals which consist of atoms. So which means inside of us are atoms. And the atoms are inside of us all have particles that they call subatomic particles. So the subatomic particles within every atom, there are protons, neutrons, and electrons. And they make up cells. So in every one of us, the structures inside of us have atoms. And these atoms are tiny particles that make up chemicals. And the chemicals are like hydrogen, carbon, sodium, potassium, magnesium, you name them. All those chemicals I mentioned all have their own atoms, and the atoms represent every one of these very chemicals I mentioned. Now, the atoms of each of these chemicals, when they come together, they form molecules. So molecules are particles consisting of atoms joined together to form water molecule, to form glucose molecule. Now, when it comes to water, water is written H2O. That's how we write water, H2O. The H2 means two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. So when they come together, they form one molecule of water. For glucose, glucose is written C6H12O6, meaning glucose is made up of 6 atoms of carbon, 12 atoms of hydrogen, and 6 atoms of oxygen. So the combination of those three chemicals, they make up what we call glucose molecule. And the molecules, when you add them together, you create macromolecule. Macromolecules are large molecules, they are large particles, pardon me, consisting of molecules. So molecules together create macromolecule. Okay. And the example of macromolecule they have on the screen are like DNA, which is a nucleic acid particle, and protein, or even carbohydrate and lipids. They are all examples of macromolecule. So macromolecules are like carbohydrate, protein, lipids, and nucleic acids like DNA. Now, these macromolecules, they are responsible for formation of organelles within a cell. Okay, so the organelles are the functional parts of cells. Okay, so these functional part of cells, we call them organelles. They are made up of macromolecules. And these macromolecules, when they come together, they make up a cell. And the cell are identified as basic unit of structure and functions. So in our body, we have muscle cell, we have nerve cell, we have blood cell. Each of these cells are made of organelles, okay, and the organelles are made up of macromolecule, and the macromolecules are made up of molecule, and the molecules are made up of atoms, and inside the atoms are the subatomic particles such as protons, neutrons, and electrons. And they all make up cells, which is the basic unit of structure and function. Now, similar cells coming together make what they call tissue. So we have muscle tissue, we have nerve tissue, and we have blood, which is also a tissue, but it's a liquid type of connective tissue. So tissues are layer. A tissue is a layer or mass of cells with specific function. And one example they have on the screen for us is adipose tissue. So in adipose tissue, you're going to have adipocytes, 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 or adipose cell, adipose cell, adipose cell, adipose cell. Well, so a bunch of adipose cells together make up adipose tissue. Just like if I have muscle cells together, I create muscle tissue. Or I have nerve cells together, I create nerve tissue. But if I have nerve cells and muscle tissues together within a structure, I just created an organ. So an organ is defined as group of different tissues with a function. So whenever you see an organ have different types of tissues. And in our body, we have four major types of tissues. I'm going to write the names of the four major types of tissues in the chat room. So we have four major tissue types. The four major tissue types are: one, epithelial; two, connective; three, muscle; and four, nervous. So if you look at the chat room, I have the names of the four major types of tissues in the human body. They are epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. So the adipose tissue they have there, as well as blood cells they have there, they're examples of what we call connective tissue. And we're going to learn about that next week, Wednesday. But for now, you need to understand that tissues, okay, are layer or mass of cells. Okay, and then if you add if you add two different tissues together, or you find two different tissues together in a structure, or you find all four tissue types within a structure, then that structure is an organ. So organs are defined as group of different tissues with a function. So examples of organs are like heart is an organ, uh, kidney is an organ, stomach is an organ, my hand is an organ. Okay, and organs you find in a different region of your body that we call system, all working together, we call that organ system. Like for example, we have digestive system that have digestive system organs. We have respiratory system that have respiratory system organs. We have urinary system that have urinary system organs. And all these systems are all in you and I. So you and I, we are what they call organisms. Okay. So organisms are composed of organ systems interacting together. Okay. Any question? Is there any question?
Yes. So you said different groups of tissues are considered to be an organ.
So if you see a structure that have different tissues in it, then that
Hmm.
structure is an organ. Correct.
And what if they have similar ones?
It's a tissue.
Okay, so similar cells make up tissue.
So similar cells make up tissue,
Okay,
and different type of tissue
make up organ.
make up an organ.
Thank
Correct.
you.
You're welcome. All right. So you're gonna see a diagram they have on the next page 5. There's a diagram there. Everyone see this diagram? It's showing us the levels of organization. It starts with atom. Everyone see that? And so if you put atoms together, you make molecule. Molecules coming together make macromolecule. The macromolecules, they make up the parts of the cell that we call organelle. And the organelles make up cells because they are parts of cell. And similar cells make up tissue. Now you see the diagram of the tissue they have there, they're referring only to the top. Okay. Because if you look at the middle part beneath that top have different color, and the region below that middle part also have different colors. So you have 3 different tissues within that very diagram. They're going to be found inside the organ. So organs have different tissues, and different organs working together make up organ system. And the organ system diagram they have on the screen is the one for what? Digestive system. Okay. And this digestive system, organ system, and other organ systems are all found inside and you and I are what they call organisms. So you can look at this arrangement from high, which is the organism, to the lowest, which is atom, or you can move from atom, which is the lowest, all the way to the highest, which is the organism. So we call this levels of organization. Any question? All right. So next is one more topic we're going to do before we take a break. This topic is called, um, it's called characteristics of life. So in this very table 1.2, we have characteristics of life. They have 10 processes there. These are 10 processes which we as human beings should be able to do. One of these processes is called movement. Right now, I'm moving my mouth, I'm moving my head. This is movement. If I stand up, it's movement. So movement is change in position of the body or of a body part, and also motion of an internal organ is also called movement. So you know how when we eat, food makes its way into our stomach. The way that food makes its way to the stomach by going through the esophagus before getting to the stomach, it's also by what they call movement. Okay. Uh, and so movement allows things to move from one region to another internally inside of us. Another process is called another process is called responsiveness. Okay. Responsiveness, okay, is a reaction to a change inside or outside the body. Okay. Responsiveness is the reaction to a change inside or outside the body. Okay. And for example, if you're in the room and the AC, the air conditioning in the room gets very, very cold, and you start shivering, you being aware that it's cold is a sign of responsiveness. So your body is responding to the cold temperature in the room where you are. So we call that responsiveness. If you have a food in your mouth, all of a sudden you're going to start salivating. It's responsiveness. So the fact that there's food in your mouth is stimulating your salivary gland to release saliva. That's also responsiveness. Growth.
Professor Philip,
Yes.
Professor, this is Janet Flowers. I half an hour I cannot connect it to the class because there
But
are
you're connected to
so
the class
many
right now.
people
You're connected to the class.
are recording the class and I get bunks off. I didn't come on.
All
I
right,
can't connect it.
Janet, I'm recording. You're in class right now. Okay. And the recording, I'm recording the material. Okay. All right. You're in class right now. All right. So the next process is called growth. Okay. Growth, like I said, um, I've not always been of this size. Okay. When I was born, I was very little, but over time, I underwent what they call increase in body size without changing shape. We call that growth. So as a human being, growth is one characteristic of life which everyone has to go through. And then we have reproduction. Reproduction means production of new organism. Okay. So I'm here, you're here because our parents contributed sex cells, okay, that came together to give rise to a zygote. And that zygote over time, and that zygote over time developed to become an embryo, and embryo over time change to become a fetus. Okay, so we call that reproduction. And reproduction also happens on our skin surfaces also. Okay, when old cells die, new cells replaces them. Another process is called respiration. Respiration is the process of obtaining oxygen from the surrounding air and also removing carbon dioxide from cells within us and exhaling that outside. But that oxygen which we bring into our body is very, very important for us because we use that oxygen to release energy from the food we eat. Now, the food we eat, we break it down by the process called digestion. And once the food is broken down, it has to be absorbed into the cells of our body. For them to get into the cells of our body, they have to be absorbed into our bloodstream. So, absorption is a passage of substances that comes from the food that we've digested. And that food, those substances have to pass through the membranes and then make their way into our body fluid. Our major body fluid is blood. When the substances make their way into blood, they have to go through what they call circulation, which is movement of substances in body fluids. And once the substances are moved by the blood to different systems in our body, once they get to the system, different system in our body, whichever system they get to, they have to undergo what they call assimilation, which is a changing of the absorbed substance into different chemical form. For example, if you eat food that is rich in calcium and the calcium makes its way into your bloodstream, it gets sent to your bone where it gets assimilated into a form of what we call calcium phosphate. Okay, okay, And finally, whatever we didn't eat, we have to excrete that from